when you mentioned that God being a jealous God and stuff like that, I can't remember what the context is now, but you're talking about, and immediately I thought, Yahweh seems to be one God of many. Did the ancient Hebrews believe that there were other gods and Yahweh was simply like just the most powerful one that you must worship or be punished? Or what do you think is the deal there? Because, I mean, why would a God be... I've always wondered, why would a God be jealous if these other gods didn't even exist?
Yeah, well, you could say that he's jealous of his people's affections. I mean, that wouldn't be outrageous and out of the question.
Right.
It might just be that, hey, what are you guys doing running after these phantoms? That would make some sense to me, but there is plenty of evidence that Israel was polytheistic at first. A couple of people have asked about this. And one major bit of evidence is in an old poem preserved in Deuteronomy 32, where we have an astounding admission that Yahweh was not even the head of the gods.
Well,
32:27. Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you, your elders, and they will tell you. So, in other words, we got real old material here.
What is this again? Where?
This is Deuteronomy 32:7 through 9.
Okay.
When Elyon, the Most High, gave to the nations their inheritance, the land they're going to live in, when he separated the sons of men into the nations, he fixed the bounds of the people according to the number of the sons of the sons of Elohim. For Yahweh's portion is his people, Jacob his allotted heritage. Now that seems plainly to reflect the belief that Elyon, God Most High, is the father of the other gods, among whom is Yahweh, and there must have been about 70 of them, and that's how come there are 70 nations, as they believed. God gave each one of them a nation to rule. Well, eventually, the priests decided to streamline the pantheon, kicking some gods like Nehushtan the serpent out of the temple altogether, and probably Shahar and Shalman and various other ones, Zedek and other Jerusalemite gods that it mentions, and they decided to combine Elyon and Yahweh. In Daniel 7, you have what was probably originally a story about how after defeating the dragons and monsters of the deep, the one like a son of man, Yahweh, assumed the rule of the heavens alongside his father, the one ancient in days, Elyon. And eventually they just decided, what the heck, the two of them are the same. And so that's reflected in Genesis 14, where Melchizedek meets Abraham and blesses him by Elyon, possessor of heaven and earth. And then Abraham answers and says, I swear by Yahweh Elyon. And so we have a unique coupling of the two names, which probably means they've now streamlined the two gods. And so even there, they didn't believe that there were no other gods, but that they have the chief god. And eventually they decided, well, no, the others are superfluous. And in Psalm 82, we read about God toppling the others from their thrones and consigning them for their mismanagement into Sheol, where their stumbling in the dark causes earthquakes. So you can connect it right up through the Old Testament. And Margaret Barker suggests the doctrine of the Trinity may grow out of old underground popular Israelite faith, that the people still remembered there was a Father and a divine Son, Elyon and Yahweh. So very polytheistic. Who in the heavens is like thee, and the heavenly council, etc., etc.
Right, yeah, I've always wondered that. I mean, council?
The sons of God, it says. And people start saying, well, that just means the angels. Well, later on, they had to demote them to that, but that's not what it says.
Yeah, I've also heard some people say that they were just people, that the sons of God were
judges or something. That's really the worst of all. I mean, you're really just rewriting and saying, gee, it sure would be helpful if this said something different. Let's pretend it does.
Now, you said the sons. It's interesting. I think one of your questions is related to this. And we kind of talked about it a little bit, I think, a couple of shows ago, but the many different names that we think Yahweh has, but it sounds like you're saying that these sons of gods had names themselves?
Yeah, for instance, Rimmon, the god of Syria, and so forth. There's several of them that are mentioned in the Old Testament, or probably even Dagon and some of these others were. Baal, certainly, they were thought to exist. They just were the gods of other nations, and therefore Israel was not to worship them. That's what is called monolatry, not monotheism, the abstract belief there is only one God, but rather a pragmatic view that, yeah, sure, there are other gods, but they're not ours. We only worship one. So it's a kind of a halfway position between polytheism and monotheism.